Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're making a braided super scarf. So we're going to need a couple of things today. So I'm going to talk about this yarn first and then I will move on. The yarn I'm using for this particular project today is a Woolcraft Pebble Chunky. It's a 200-gram skein of wool, or acrylic yarn even. It's 320 meters and for a gauge of 6 millimeters. Whether you're using a crochet hook or whether you're doing a knitted project. It can be machine washed and tumble dried on cool. This shade in this brand is actually 8079, which is an absolutely gorgeous variegated red. It has shades of pink running through there, or dusty pink to kind of like browns and cream. Yeah, it's just a lovely colour for this time of year. So you're going to need two of those for this pattern, a row counter and a 6mm crochet hook. So the first part of the pattern, we're going to be making these. It's like a long ribbon. As you can see, very long ribbon. It's only made up in a couple of different rows, so it's super easy for a sort of beginner to intermediate project level. So without any more of me talking, we are just going to dive straight in. Right, for first part of this, we are going to make a slip knot for our hook. And then you're going to hate me for this, but now you need to chain 240. Yep, that's right, you heard me, 240 chains. Yeah, I nearly died making this as well, but hey, it turns out spectacular. So bear with, I'm not going to do all these on camera. I'll do maybe 10, maybe 20, whatever. So let's just go for it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. So what I normally do, and this is why I have one of these row counters, because I hate counting as a work. So I normally go in sections of 20, put 2 clicks on. So you can see, yeah, you can see that I've got 2. So when I hit 24 on this, I know I've got the right amount. So it just saves you losing count round about 210, and then you go, oh, what number am I on again? And then you have to start again. So I'm just going to sit here and do another 220 chains, and then I will be back. Right, so 240 chains later. Congratulations if you got this far. You're going to be doing a lot of them. Right, on to the next. What we're going to do is we are going to yarn over and go into the 3rd chain from our hook. So not this one, but the next one. And we're going to do a double crochet into that stitch. And we're going to do a double crochet into each stitch all the way along until you get to the end. So you're going to end up with, if I work this out properly, it's 250, 240, 39, 38, 237 roughly. 238. Well, I'll let you know in a minute. So yeah, just make sure you put 1 stitch into each side of this chain stitch until you get to the end. I won't do all these on camera because it's just going to be tediously boring for you to all watch. So I will get back to you at the end of this little row here. Right, so I have just come up to the end of that round, so I just need to pop 1 more in this last chain. And then what you can do is you can chain 3. Turn your work, and we're going to double crochet back across this row. So we're not going to go into the top one here. where my thumb is, we're going into the next one because this chain 3 counts as a stitch. So again, nice and easy row. We're just going to double crochet in each stitch all the way across until we get to the other side, where I will catch you back then. So I'm not going to do all these on camera because the video will end up being too long. So I'll just do a few just so you can have a look. So I will see you back in a few moments. Right, so I am nearly to the end of this second row. It's quite an easy row. Well, they're all easy. So I'm just going to continue on and just talk away a little bit. Yes, I'm going to talk away and then I just go a little quiet, but I always do when I'm concentrating. So I'm just going in with double crochets like we've been doing. Absolutely love the way this yarn feels. It's really nice and it feels really sturdy but soft at the same time. It's gorgeous. Right, one in the last. Yeah. Right, so that's the end of row 2. I'm just going to continue on, and what we're going to do is we are going to chain 1. Don't turn your work, but in this last stitch, what we're going to do is we're not going to go through the gap here. We're actually going to go through the stitch itself, because if we went through this gap, it would just open this up too wide, and it just doesn't look very good. So we're going to put in 2 single crochets through that stitch. So there's 1 and 2. And then the next stitch is going to be, it's kind of in the first chain, if you can see there. So we're going to put 1 in there. And then in this little cornery part here, what we're going to do is we're going to put 2. Again, so that makes 5. Just like that. Then chain 1. That makes another, just gives enough leeway to get around this other corner. So on this side, this is the side where our starting foundation chain is. So you want to go into this part of the chain here. Hopefully this is showing up on camera. And we're doing single crochets all into the loops of the other side of the chain, because it's going to give us the same kind of edge with as this, because it does look different. So it's going to give us the same edge without making it too much wider. So you're going to place 1 single crochet in each of the loops on this side of the chain until you get to the end, and then I will be back with you then. Right, I'm just coming to the end of this single crochet row now, so I've got about 5 more single crochets to do. Right, now what we want to do is we want to put 1 in this corner and chain 1, and we're going to do just like what we did on the other side. I'm keeping this other tail out of my way because we might need to use that a bit later on. And in this first stitch, what we come to here, I'm going to place in 2 singles, trying to get 2 loops on my hook there. There we go. So there's 1. There's another, so that's 2. one in the end of this stitch here, and then 2 in this part here, giving us a total of 5 single crochets along this short edge. Chain 1, and I'm not going to do any other stitches here. I'm just going to slip stitch into the edge of this stitch right here. So slip stitch and then pull through. Make sure you leave yourself enough yarn in case you need to do a little light sewing later. It's always best to anyway. And that is it for this part of the tutorial. You will need to make 4 of these in total for this pattern. So I'm just going to lay this out for you so you can see. And it has some really nice subtle colour changes in this yarn, which is going to make for a really nice effect when it comes to putting this thing together. So, the next part of our tutorial, I did forget to mention that you are going to need some long pins. I'll just grab mine. So I actually have these ones. They're really easy to see when you're working with them, because the last thing you want to do is stab yourself with a scarf when you wear it. So I will see you in a flash for the next part of this tutorial. Right, so this is the tricky part of the tutorial now. Right, what I've got here is I have my 4 pieces, all facing the same way. As you can see, you can tell by these ridges. And then for my middle 2, I am going to actually turn them over, because it just has a slightly different texture. So it's going to look really pretty once it's done. You can put these anywhere you want. So this is just how I'm doing it for this video. And then I have got here just a heavy box with a lot of loose change in it, because I need to weigh these down. So you can use anything, a bag of sugar or just anything heavy, just so these, just so it has a fighting chance of not getting pulled like that. If you have somebody who can help you do this, even better. But if you're by yourself, just weigh them down with anything what you got handy. Right, so to start this weave off, what we're going to do is we're just going to cross over these 2 middle ones, just like this. Then I'm going to put my hand here, and with my other hand, I'm just going to pull through and make sure they don't get tangled up. I always find that when I'm making these, to do it on a carpeted surface, because it just gives a little grip actually, and a bit more manoeuvrability. It stops it from sliding round. Right, so then what we're going to do is we're going to take this one and bring it over the outside. Now, I'm not pulling on these, I'm not tugging on them, I'm just placing them. Because as soon as you start pulling on yarn, it stretches. And we want these to line up the best we can at the end. And then with this outside one, I'm going to go under. And then with my other hand, I'm just making sure everything's not getting tangled up. Right, and then these 2 here, these are now our inside ones. So I want to go under with those, and it makes this gorgeous kind of woven pattern as we go. If any of you have braided children's hair or done any hairdressing in the past, you'll know what we're doing here. So then what we want to do is these outside ones need to come back to the centre. So since this one can't go over like this, it has to go under. So we put the inside one to the outside, and we just kind of manoeuvre this round. You don't want it tight, so as soon as you start tightening things up, it kind of loses all its shape. And then this outside one needs to come inside. So since this one above it is under, this one goes over, just like this. So what I like to do now is just stop for a second. I'm not going to stop the video though, and then I'm going to take some pins and just lightly pick this up, and I'm just going to start placing some pins in here. Make sure, make sure everything's where you want it, because since we're only pinning things at the moment, this can be changed a little bit or loosened off a little bit in the video, or when you make yours at home. So I'm not going to do the entire braid because I just don't have a space where I'm sat. Basically, this white background is a 12 by 15 blank paint canvas for painting, so you can imagine how little space I have. So what this is going to do is it's just going to stop anything from moving around as you're constructing your weave. I always like to try and get all my pins going in the same direction because you'll end up stabbing yourself with them when you're crocheting again later, because we still have a border edge to do on this scarf. So I'm just going to do a little bit more for you, because otherwise I'm going to run out of room. Right, so since this outside one here, it can't go back over that way, so it has to go under. So as you can see, nothing's getting pulled on, nothing's getting tugged, it's just getting smoothed out, and everything's just getting nicely placed. And back to the outside one. On this side, it's got to go over because it can't go under. And then these two outside ones then become our middle again. It is a little fiddly. I remember the first time I made one of these, I was ripping my hair out. But the good thing about this is, since we're not doing any stitches yet, you can take it apart, you can redo it. You know, it's one of them where the more preparation you can put into it to get it looking nice and get it right, the better your end result's going to be. Like anything, preparation is always key with these kind of fiddly projects. Oops, just stab through my canvas there. And again, use as many pins as you feel like using, because it's just going to really just hold it all into place. Right, so I'm going to continue this off camera, and then I will be back to show you the edge of this scarf and how we're going to finish it off. So I will see you in a few moments. Right, so I'm just coming up nearly to the end of this braid. So I'm just going to continue on and just do the rest of this on camera. So again, not really pulling anything. If I end up with any majorly big gaps like this, you just take the pin out and just replace it, repin it. You know, take all the time what you need doing this, because if you rush this part, it's just not going to hold together as well. And when it's on, because none of this is getting stitched, we're only just going to put a single crochet edge on it. So it's always best to take your time. See, I've got another little holy bit there. So I'm just going to make sure this is nice and snug in there. And repin. Just going to move my work up a little bit. Another reason why I'm actually I'm still working on my board here is what this box is doing is it's stopping any drag on my work. So it's that's going to make sure that the weight of my work isn't going to also interfere with the tension on these. If you get me. Doesn't necessarily matter if these are not going to be the same length at the ends, because there's a way around everything. Right, so I'm going to stop my braid here because I can't make another full rotation round. So, as you can see, that mine aren't quite lining up, which is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stretch this out a little bit and put a pin in the middle. And then stretch this one out a little bit, see where it's coming from, and just to give it a little extra length. So it's so awkward to work in such a on such a small surface for this. So to give it an extra length, I'm just going to see whereabouts it goes up to, and just take a pin out, and just give it a little tug. You can do it over a couple of different sections, so you're not going to see it. And yeah, we're about right there. More pins. Oh, just got myself there. So if you end up with a slightly longer one, where this one is, you can just take a pin out, repin it, you know. It does take a little bit of practice and a little bit of work to get this looking right. You know, you never quite get it first time. So after you've finished doing your braid, you know, put it down for 5 minutes, have a look at it, and see which little bits just need a little extra finessing. So I'm just about there now. Got all these tails to work in later. That's going to be nice and fun. Yeah. So I just want to put in one more here. And since we can't go any further, this is going to be it now. So double check all your work. Get these. These will eventually sort of line up, but don't worry if they don't all line up completely. Because I'll explain in the next part of the pattern. So what I'm going to do now is switch on to the other side of my scarf because I don't want to be working with all these tails with you. So I will be back in a minute. Right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to, this is the opposite side of my scarf where we started the braid. I've got 1,000 pins in, keeping it all connected, but as you can see, there's not really a way to keep these ones connected very well. So what we're going to do now is we are going to get our yarn, and we're going to try and work as flat as possible on this, because you don't want it to be moving around on you too much. You want to keep it nice and flat so the pattern turns out even. So I'm just going to pick a stitch. I never go into a corner. I normally try and pick a stitch in the middle. Pull up a loop. Chain one. Now for this outside we're just going to work in single crochet. You know, this scarf, it doesn't need a fancy border on it because the whole thing's fancy. So what we're going to do is into the next stitch with a single, into the next stitch with a single, and then what we're going to do is we're going to jump straight over into this corner onto the next piece, and I'm just going to slip stitch that, yeah, and then carry on working single crochets. It's a little tricky to see because I have to do this flat. I can't get it up to the camera very well. So I'm back at this corner on this piece. So I'm going into the corner on my next with a slip stitch. And then I'm just carrying on doing single crochet. And this is just going to keep these together. So single, single, single. Now I'm on my outside piece now. Don't forget, slip stitch it together. Try and get it as tight as possible, and then just carry on working in single crochet. Right, I'm at a corner, so I'm going to chain one and go into the same stitch with a single crochet, and then I'm going to turn my entire scarf around so I'm working in the proper direction. So bear with me for 1 second. I'm not going to show you the entire thing because it's all going to be the same, basically, all the way round this scarf. So every time you get to a corner, it's the same. You put in one single crochet, a chain one, and a single. So that's in each four corners of your scarf, so to speak. So what we're going to do now is working in single crochet. I'm going to go down to about here, just before these crisscross over. So I don't have an exact stitch count for this because it's going to be different every time because of the way it's constructed. But as long as it's similar, and as long as nothing's bulging over, or if it's all nice and evenly done, then it should be nice and even to crochet. So I'm just doing singles. And this is why you need a lot of pins in there, just to stop it from moving around. So I'm just coming up on a couple of stitches before where it crosses over to meet. And what I'm going to do now is work out which stitch I want to go through. So that's all nice and straight. So I'm not going to go through my next one because there's nothing underneath it. So I'm just going to do my next one like normal with a single crochet, and then in my next one I'm going to put my hook through the stitch, and then I'm going to look underneath and just go through a stitch on it's going to be this piece here. So I'm basically crocheting two panels together now with a single crochet, just like that. And then you just carry on going. So we don't go down here, we carry on going across the edge. So you look at your next stitch, it's quite easy to see there. And you just keep going. You know, so I'm actually doing this a little bit more on the loose side with the edge, just because I don't want anything to buckle up since we are going round curves. So ease off on your tension a little bit is the best thing for this. So I'm just coming to another junction. Yeah, let's call them junctions. Why not? So without, you know, make sure you don't stretch anything, or you know, keep it nice and flat. Go through your next stitch. Have a look underneath. You can sort of see which one it's going to go to, and single crochet through both layers. And that is it for this part of the video. What we're going to work on next is finishing touches. So I'll leave you now to put a single crochet border all the way around my scarf. I wouldn't suggest taking your pins out as you go. Take your pins out when you're finished. And yeah, I will see you in 2 minutes. Right guys, so as you can see, I have finished my single crochet border, and I must say myself that this one in this colour is looking absolutely stunning. It just gives really nice subtle red shades through there, and I'm not going to show you the whole thing because it is actually quite a lengthy project now, is this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see which is the front and which is the back. Right, I'm working on the back side of a scarf now. So I have a yarn needle with some yarn, which is just one of my ends. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close up a few of these gaps here. It's nice and simple. It's not going to be rocket science. So to do this, what I generally do is kind of give it a bit of a tug, and then let it relax on itself and just see where it wants to sit. It's never going to sit completely in line with the rest of the scarf. It's always going to be a little bit wider, which is fine. So since this isn't in the right place, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in a couple of whip stitches until I get to my first opening. Now I'm going to be gentle whilst I do this because I don't want anything to bunch up or crinkle up on me. I'm just going to go through a couple of these, just with a whip stitch, joining one edge to the other. Don't want to be overly tight, like I said, because it's just going to end up bunching up your work and ruining it. So we're going to just go to this first junction here. And then what we're going to do is just pop in an extra one, just to see if we can close this like little gap there slightly. And go into the next. Just like that. And then I'm just going to work in the same way, just picking up stitches as I go. Like I said, this is on the back of your scarf, so you're not going to see it, and since we're sewing in the exact same colour, it's nearly impossible to see close up anyway. Just don't have to go crazy with the amount of stitches, just as long as it's together like that. And then I'm just going to pick this up and hide this end in a little bit. Just weave it in a few times. A few times there, a few times back. You know, just whatever you think's enough to keep it stable. And then I'm just going to snip off the excess. Any other tails like this one, weave them all in. With the other end, I'm just going to show you. I'm going to do the exact same thing. make sure I've got the right side. Yep. So this side. Now this side is a little bit looser like this, which is fine. It does happen. So what we're going to do is just have a look on this side, and I'm going to repin some of this because I don't want these to move too much once it's in the right place. So again, just give it a bit of a tug, kind of get your pattern to follow as best you can. You know, it might need a little stretching out in places or a little rearranging, which is fine. I'll just pop a pin there. And I'm going to pop another one in on this side and also one in here. Again, I'm going to close the big middle open section up because that's going to really just hold the entire piece together. So I'm just going to take one of these tails I've got here, plenty to go at, just with my darning needle, and I'm just going to do the exact same. Even if you want to sew this on the front or on the back, it's fine. Like I said, you can't really see it anyway. And if somebody's really looking at you that closely whilst wearing a scarf, they should be buying you a drink. Just take that pin away. Take this pin away. And I'm going to take this one away now. I always like to count my pins back in my wheel because heaven forbid you ever sit on one or get one in your foot if you accidentally drop one. I've done that a couple of times. And yes, it hurts. Right, so I'm just going to stitch back down this little seam area. And I'm just going to hide that the best I can, pull it through. Don't ever pull it too tight. You can put a little tension. Where my snip's gone? There they are. You can put a little tension on just before you snip it, and then give it a bit of pull afterwards, and it just really buries that end in there. Right, I'm going to do the same for this side and this side now. You know, so since it is a little bit wider, you can kind of just see where it wants to lay flat and sew it there. That one wants to sit a little under, so sew it there. And even though it's not putting the edges together, it's still making this you know, nice and streamlined for you. So I'm going to do this off camera, and then you can either leave it there or you can put fringing on the end. So if you bear with me, I'll just put a couple in. For me, I just want to leave this one nice, plain and simple because I quite like the look of it so far. So I'm going to weave these in, and then I'll be back to show you a little bit of fringe. Right guys, I'm just going to do a quick demo on how I would put fringe on this. I'm only going to show you this one a little bit because I just don't want to put fringe on my scarf. I just think it just looks nice and clean as it is. But for anybody who wants to, maybe you can just add a little into each corner or go all the way across. You get some length of yarn. You can either wrap it around a DVD case and cut down one edge, which will give you enough length to work with. So I would just go through the corner, put it over, yarn, pull through, take your hook away, and you can do the rest with your fingers by just doing that. So I would probably put on this one, if I were going for it, which I'm not, in the corners, and each edge I come to. Yeah, not to go too much with it, but you know, just to add a little extra if you want. So that's all from me for this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Leave me a little cheeky comment if you like. I'm also on Instagram. I always say to people, if you do make one of my projects, I'd love to see it. So my name on there on Instagram is Crochet Kyle. So yeah, until the next time, I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I will see you back soon. Bye.